is Kingdom Work Expanding the Gospel.
I want to talk to you today about over and above blessings. When you have a generous spirit, you're always doing more than what's required. You stay late to help that coworker that's struggling. You take that elderly neighbor dinner at night, support that single parent mom, or you give to expand the ministry. You don't have to. Nobody would look down on you if you didn't, but you have this over and above mentality. You're always looking for ways you can do good. You're not just being a blessing to others, but you are positioning yourself for God to do over and above in your life. The scripture says, if you sow sparingly, you will reap sparingly. But if you sow generously, you will reap generously. Some people do as little as they can to get by. They have a little kindness, so they won't be seen as unfriendly. They'll give a little time to help others, little encouragement, little friendship. They wonder why they don't get good breaks, why they don't see favor. They're reaping what they're sowing. If you sow average, you're going to see average. If you sow ordinary, do only what's required, then you'll see ordinary. But when you have this over and above mentality, looking for ways to be a blessing and doing more than what's expected, you are setting yourself up for God to show out in your life, to open doors you couldn't open, to bring divine connections, to see favor that you've never seen. Don't live at the level of obligation. Don't have that what can I get by with mentality. That's going to limit your life. Have a generous spirit. If you'll turn loose of what's in your hands, God will turn loose of what's in his hands. God is a rewarder. He sees you being a blessing, singing in the choir on your day off, investing in that young man that doesn't have a father, taking him to ball practice with your son. He sees you giving funds that you could use for your dream, making sacrifices to build his kingdom. That's setting you up for over and above blessings. I've learned you can't outgive God. You can't be a blessing to others without God being a blessing to you. The way he does it is he multiplies it. It's going to come back pressed down, shaken together, and running over. There was a man in the scripture named Barnabas. He didn't come from an influential family. He didn't have a big resume or education. Just an ordinary man, but he had a generous spirit. He saw the disciples were doing great work, and he wanted to support them. Acts 4 says he sold a piece of property he owned, brought the funds, and laid them at the disciples' feet. He didn't have to. Nobody would have faulted him if he didn't. But he had this over and above mentality. He wanted to be a blessing. That one act of generosity opened the door to all this opportunity. He became a mentor to Paul. Paul wasn't accepted by the disciples at first. They still thought that he was against the church. It was Barnabas that convinced them that Paul was a believer. Barnabas went from ordinary, nobody knew him, to this influential position. The scripture says Barnabas was chosen by the Spirit to accompany Paul on his first missionary journey. Barnabas helped start the church in Antioch. When Paul and Mark had a big disagreement, Barnabas was the one that helped restore the relationship. On and on. God used Barnabas in great ways, but it can all be traced back to that over and above gift. His generosity opened doors, brought favor, relationships that he never dreamed. When you live with this over and above mentality, you're generous with your time, your talent, your resources, not living at the level of obligation, but going above and beyond. That gets God's attention. He'll release over and above in your life. He'll put you in front of audiences that you've never dreamed. People, opportunities, resources you didn't see coming. That's the running over blessings. Things you can't explain. Positions where you didn't have the qualifications. Connections with people that should be over your head, out of your league, but now they're looking up to you. Now you're the leader. You're giving vision. You're making the impact. Don't miss opportunities to live over and above. These are things that are not required. Nobody's going to pressure you to do it. Your mind, your reasoning will tell you, no thanks, Joel. I'm busy. I don't have time to serve. I don't have time to mentor that young person. Or I need these funds. I got my own dreams, trying to build my own career. Here's the whole key. When you give over and above, you're not going to end up at a deficit. You're not losing anything. You are positioning yourself for increase, for abundance, for doors to open, for divine connections. If Barnabas were here today, he would tell you it all started when I gave that gift, when I went over and above. He didn't give it to get something. He simply gave it to be a blessing. But look how God works. If he can entrust you to be a great blessing, then he will bless you with more. He will open the windows of heaven, pour out blessings that you cannot contain. That's what it says in the book of Malachi, that when you tithe your income, you give offerings, and God will increase you and pour out his blessings. In that same passage, it asks the question, will a man rob God by not giving? What's interesting is God owns it all. He makes streets out of gold. When Peter needed money for taxes, there was a coin in the fish's mouth. It's not like God needs our funds to keep everything going. God's going to go broke if we don't give. No, what that means, will a person rob God, is if you don't live generously, you are robbing God of the opportunity to bless you. You're robbing him of the doors he wants to open, the resources he wants to give you, the people he wants to bring. You're taking away that opportunity for him to show out in your life. Don't rob him. He's longing to be good to you. Jesus said it's the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. But God works by principles. When you live over and above, that's a seed you're sowing. Then you will reap over and above. When you do more than what's required, like Barnabas, nobody forced you to bless that neighbor that's struggling. Nobody made you come early today and serve as a prayer partner and usher. Nobody required you to give that coworker a ride. You weren't obligated to support the ministry. Nobody would know if you didn't. You could live at the level of obligation, but I know a secret. I'm looking at Barnabas's. I'm looking at over and above people, people with a generous spirit. You need to get ready. God's about to release over and above in your life. He's about to put you in front of audiences you didn't see coming, with people of influence, where you shine brightly, where they admire you, and open doors that thrust you to a new level. Because you sow generously, you're going to reap generously. Now, I know many of you have been doing this, but you haven't seen those windows open yet. Let me encourage you. God has seen all the sacrifices, the times you gave when you needed the funds. You stayed late to help when you were tired. You went the extra mile, but nobody said thanks. God is about to thank you. He's about to show out in your life. You're going to see increase, abundance, resources, contracts that you cannot contain. That means so many good opportunities that you have to choose what's best. That means lending and not borrowing, being able to be a bigger blessing. That means the right people showing up, not having to track them down, hope they give you a break, but divine connections searching you out. This all goes back, number one, to honoring God, keeping him first place, and number two, having an over and above mentality, a generous spirit, not ingrown, focused only on me. Get outside of yourself. Don't rob God of the opportunity to bless you. Look for ways you can be an over and above blessing. I was at the furniture store a while back, and I ran into this couple, and they told how they had just bought their first home, and they were so proud, just beaming with joy, and I congratulated them, gave them a hug. They were looking for furniture for their living room. On the way out, I told my salesman, whatever they find to buy, put it on this credit card. Don't say anything about who it was. I'm not doing it to get credit. I'm doing it unto God. He's the one that matters. He's keeping all the records. Well, Joel, I don't have those kinds of funds to buy a stranger furniture. Maybe not. But can you buy your coworker a cup of coffee? Bring it to them in the morning? You didn't have to. That's an over and above blessing.
So bigger, you reap bigger. His word is faithful. Thank you for watching. Stay around for more. God bless you.